All right, folks, we're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us to celebrate InDepthNH.org's 10th anniversary. Who knew? Woo! Woo, woo, woo! My name is Beverly Stoddard, and I am a member of the Board of Directors for the New Hampshire Center for Public Interest Journalism. And we publish InDepthNH.org. We're grateful to all of you for finding us in this wide and varied universe of news providers. But you've turned to us because we are a watchdog news website. And we believe that in-depth news coverage focused on government and public servants is the bedrock of a thriving democracy. Imagine the thriving democracy. So the story goes, Miss Nancy West started this, she's our publisher and executive editor. She started In-Depth New Hampshire at her kitchen table with the smallest amount of money. She brought 30 years of award-winning talent and investigative news experience to this effort. You know, investigative journalists are like superheroes. Did you know that? But except they fight villains with public record requests and late night emails. We're going after you no matter when, no matter what time of day. So Nancy had become increasingly concerned about the shrinking resources for serious local journalism. She saw that traditional newsrooms were under financial pressure and that many important stories, especially those about government transparency, were not being told. That concern led her to do something bold. She decided not to retire quietly, but to reinvent what local journalism could look like in New Hampshire. But she is more than a journalist. Nancy is a steward of the public trust. She's building a sustainable model of journalism that is rooted in ethics, public service, and a fierce belief in informed citizenship. And you know, folks, that's why you're here. If ever we doubt the role of journalism in democracy, Nancy's journey reminds us that when one person refuses to step back, great things can take root and grow. So she is joined in this publishing journey by a group of incredibly talented, professional, and dedicated reporters and writers who dig deep, ask tough questions, and consistently deliver truthful, impactful stories. Just to name a few, Gary Rayno. He's in Gary Rayno. Paula Tracy, Damian Fisher, Michael Davidow, and Catherine Webster, among many others, many others. Because of her good work, in 2023, Nancy was awarded the Michael Donahue Freedom of Information Award, and it was by the New England First Amendment Coalition, recognizing her body of work that protects and advances the public's right to know. We hope you take away from tonight's program how deeply we are committed to serious journalism. But also, we're going to have a little fun. Even though journalists get, we'll see. Yeah. So I am so pleased to introduce to you tonight our founder, our friend, Nancy West.
Thank you. Very nice. Thank you. Good evening. Oh, microphone. Good evening. We're print people. We don't really know how to behave around cameras and microphones. I can't even put this in right up. Anyway, it's like old home week for me tonight. I know so many of you, I've interviewed you or run into you somehow over the years, and I'm so glad that you showed up. Thank you so much. A couple of you even helped me raise hell in print and in real life on occasion over these decades. So thank you for being here. You know, we can't print the news without your help. We get a lot of hot tips, and that's how it works. And it's getting harder and harder to get information out of the government. So what we have to do is just work harder and harder. Hey, they're not going to rat themselves out, you know? We need you. And I'm just warming up, and this is a warning. I'm about to start bragging about the New Hampshire Public Interest Journalism Center for Public Interest Journalism and the nonprofit online daily newsletter InDepthNH.org. And when that happens, I could go on and on. Just go like this. If everybody does that when I go on too long, it would help. It's because I'm so hugely proud of the work we've been able to do in the last 10 years. It's really, really incredible. In these 10 years, and they flew by, we've probably published around 7,000 originally reported news stories. We've built our readership from 0 to a lot. How many? The last count that I think is fairly accurate is about 2 million unique readers in the last year. I know, it's great. And we have 17,125 people who subscribe to our daily newsletter that we put out whenever the work is done for the day. So it could be done at 7 or 9. You know, we just don't believe people should have to wait till tomorrow for today's news. And we had, actually, the number of readers we had at the beginning in 2015, that's exactly how many dollars we had in the bank. Actually, Dick Tofel, our main speaker tonight, when I was talking with him a couple of months ago, he said startups should have at least 3 months or 3 years, I don't know, operating reserves. Who knew? I certainly didn't. And but last year, our first year, we had $17,000 in donations and grants or whatever. And last year we had $313,000. So, no, this is for you. You folks are the ones ponying up most of the dollars. Although we did get a Press Forward grant. And, you know, that's an awful lot of people reading our newsletter. And I'm so grateful because many of you, you know, they might send me a little note, a big check. Sometimes that happens a lot, actually. Or just a note saying, thank you for doing this work. It really needs doing, you know, and I believe that. And I can't go any further without saying, you know, I didn't do it alone. My son, Montana West, who's operating a camera, his real job is at New Hampshire PBS, but he helps us out. And his friend from PBS, Skylar Scribner, is videotaping us tonight. So we'll be online. You can see everything that's happening. And, you know, I'd like to take all the credit. I love accolades, you know. Who doesn't? But without Gary Rayno, Paula Tracy, Damian Fisher, Catherine Webster, there would be no InDepthNH.org. They work for peanuts. I mean, literally. I have to buy big bags, you know, peanuts. And they work like dogs. You know, they don't care well, they do care, but they sometimes even complain, but not often. You know, starting early in the morning for some of these really, what may seem like boring hearings, but they stick it out and write a great story. And before we had all of those great writers, we had a great board. Our board of directors has always been so wonderful. And if you wouldn't mind, would you mind standing as I say your name, our board members? Don Burns, George Bald, Bob Charest, Gina Gilmore, Don Crease, Gloria Norris is in LA, Steve Taylor, Lucy Wyman, Bev Stoddard, and Barbara Tatro. You know, I was telling somebody my idea of building a business was, well, you just open up, you do a good job, and people throw money at you. Thank God George Bald came along very early, because he knows a lot about business. And now we know a little bit too. And I'd have to say a shout out to editorial cartoonist Mike Marland. He's not working with us now, but you know, he was going to come tonight, but something came up. But yesterday I republished one of his cartoons from 2019 with President Trump wearing a crown. You know, still timely. It was still timely today. And my sister Monica, who writes occasional book reviews, my sister Mary Jane, who's learning how to post and copy edit stories, and my grandson, did he come? My grandson, Greer West, a junior at Concord High School, who helps me occasionally with Photoshop because he's better at it than me. And without our great columnists, Michael David Au, Michael Ferber, Susan Dromey Heater, Mike Kitch, Wayne King, and Jeffrey Hastings, our rambling photographer / reporter, who's also here tonight. Thank you, Jeffrey. We are doing The Future of News, brought to you by a little old lady. That's me. Utilizing the old-fashioned ethics and skills learned in those many years at the UL and AP. Before that, I was at the Littleton Courier, where I loved it. I would own the front page. I'd cover the planning board, school board, selectmen, and anything else. Fires, whatever. And with the partisanship that is growing in news sites, fake news all around, AI getting better and better at pretend news, New Hampshire, I hope, needs us more than ever, and we need all of you. Well, it's just so great to get together. And that only makes sense. I've always looked at InDepthNH as belonging to all of us, everybody here, all of New Hampshire. We used to give away all of our stories for free, and we do it again because the news crisis, it's terrible. It just keeps getting worse in New Hampshire. You know, fewer reporters. You go to a press conference, there's hardly anyone there, especially since COVID. You know, and I think we've done a good job, so I'm going to blow our horn, a little bit. InDepthNH was out front reporting on dishonest police officers, people locked up in state prison for being mentally ill, not because they committed a crime, but because they were considered a danger to themselves and others, too dangerous for the state psychiatric hospital. Our education reporting by Gary and Paula truly informed the public about the crisis in education. You remember it was a crisis decades ago with the Claremont Supreme Court decision. Is Andrew here? Andrew Valinsky? Hey, Andrew. The man who fought that battle and has kept fighting ever since, Andrew Valinsky, is here tonight, and he shares his Substack on public education with us most weeks. And, you know, what an education. You know, I've been a reporter forever, and I've learned a whole lot about what's going on with education and how the funding is falling too much on the backs of property taxpayers and not enough by state funding. Without writers like Paula Tracy, who would cover the governor and executive council? Where's Paula? I can't see everybody. Okay, and the state legislature has changed a lot over the years, so I'm really glad we were here to report about it. I remember Gary Rayno's first column letting us know New Hampshire was beginning to mirror Washington more and more, with divided parties no longer meeting for a drink after a session, but instead calling each other out in the most hateful terms. Is it still worth reporting the news? Yep, always. Sometimes I see the difference it has made, even if it takes a very long time. Today, the state is finally investing in a more secure building on the grounds of the state psychiatric hospital, so they won't have to send mentally ill patients to the state prison if they haven't committed a crime. We pushed hard on finding out the names of dishonest police that were kept on secret lists to be public, and many other matters we grabbed, and we won't let go. But you can't stop with government. Already construction of the new psychiatric unit, has stalled. Something about contractor problems. And that's been stalled quite a while. And the list of dishonest police turned out to not include all of the names. Some names disappeared behind closed doors in secret court hearings. We're not giving up on that either. So we must keep fighting the old fights, tackle the new ones as they come along, and if you've been reading InDepthNH.org, that's plenty of fights. And it is just getting so hard when so many public officials, they'd rather prefer to PR their way through their term instead of telling their constituents the truth. And that doesn't go for any elected officials here. The good ones showed up. All right. Executive counselors included. That's, as we say at InDepthNH.org, we're not going to let the bastards win. We need to grow even faster now because InDepthNH.org only exists because everyone who works with us is a contract worker. We need to create well-paying jobs with benefits and a future. We invited you here to celebrate, and you really deserve it because you've really kept us going. I'm going to keep my fundraising spiel really short. We're very fortunate to have Dawn Lemieux join us as a part-time fundraiser, bookkeeper, and administrative duties. We are psyched. This is a first for us to be able to afford this year. And she's wonderful. From November 1st to December 31st, your donations will be matched dollar for dollar up to about $50,000 this year with our local matchers, which includes the Katie Burns Fund and several other philanthropists and New Hampshire Charitable Fund in New Hampshire. And like just about everyone says nowadays, democracy dies in darkness. And at InDepthNH.org we say, not on our watch, definitely, not on our watch. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Bria, get you. đồng chí so với 한번 학기 읽고 tích.
One second. All right, folks. That was great. Thank you, Nancy. We are growing, and it's all because of you. Okay. So, I told you we were going to have a little fun, all right? And tonight, and we have a very special, never before seen work brought by our very talented writers. We're not a one-trick pony here. We got skills. So, and I'd like all my thespians, if you would be so kind, to join me on the stage. Michael and, all right, everybody, Lucy, okay, right? We're gonna, then I'll move out of the way and you guys can, it's just the three. Okay, so I'm going to put my 1950s hat on, Did you ever listen to radio shows in the 1950s? I'm going to put my hat on. I wish I had a literal hat. But I'm going to introduce a new send-up, imagining if Watergate happened not in 2025, not 1972. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the Radio Free New Hampshire players, Michael Davidow, Lucy Wyman, and Michael Ferber. And, all right. All right. So, I'm going to be your narrator tonight, and then you folks will come over here and join. And you know how they used to do it? They would just crowd around the microphone, and they'd lean in and do their part. So, yeah, we're going to do it this way, I think. Okay, so good evening.
For this is that we didn't have to memorize it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, they use their skits too also. So, good evening, radio listeners. 10 years ago, Nancy West started the New Hampshire Center for Public Interest Journalism on a wing and a prayer and the pocket change she found in her couch cushion. We present the following skit from Radio Free New Hampshire in her honor. All right, the Watergate scandal actually led to the downfall of a president. Do you remember? Let's take a look. Again, we're looking at it from 2025. So we've got Woodward, played by Michael Davidow. We have Bernstein, played by Michael Ferber. Oh, yeah? And this is Ben Bradley. Right here, Lucy Wyman is Ben Bradley. And now we're going to get started, folks. All right?
Bernstein, get your ass over to the Watergate complex. Democratic Party office break-in is all over the police scanner.
But it's my turn to do the obits tonight, Ben.
You're a metropolitan reporter.
But you guys laid off the obituary department just last week, so we're all pulling double duty. I hear the news section is next.
We're the news section.
Ben, you're such a funny guy.
Look, this could be big. I just heard from my source over at police headquarters they brought in some weird-looking gang of burglars. Immigrants, maybe? Like they're from Cuba or someplace? Maybe there's an ICE angle to work.
Then let's just wait for the press release. ICE loves to tell us what it has done, just like the police and the National Guard.
Do that again. Can you do that again?
Oh.
You weren't close enough to the mic.
Let me repeat that, Ben. Let's just wait for the press release. ICE loves to tell us what it has done, just like the police and the National Guard.
Just get down there and talk to someone. Shoe leather, pencil and paper.
Do we really have to? Since Jeff Bezos took over from Katharine Graham, my mileage rate has been cut twice.
He also cut my hours. I'm done for the day in 10 minutes.
Netflix and chill, right, Woodward?
I wish. I got a second job as a DoorDash driver, finally making some real dough.
Nice. Me, I have to grow my followers on the damn social media, or human resources told me I'd get another pay cut.
Maybe I should just write this story myself.
Ben, just wait for the press release.
Where is our child?
Yeah.
Where is her?
The whole...
I am not a crook. And if somebody would suggest otherwise, I will find them and hunt them down. Rosemary, get my lawyers on the phone. Tell them I am going to sue the Washington Post for $16 billion. I am not a crook. And I haven't seen Epstein in years.
We have a song.
All right, guys, we had the song we heard. Okay, this ought to be good. Start across. Okay, hang on. Oh, oops, gotta get my.
Well, we're a ragtag kind of a group here.
We're amateurs.
Yeah.
We're amateurs. Yes.
We have a song. Okay, all right. Hello, Dolly.
Hello, doll.
2, 3. Well, hello, Nancy. How have you been? Nancy, it's so nice to have you back where you belong. You're looking swell, Nancy. We can tell, Nancy. You're still writing, you're still fighting. You are in depth. Go.
Or this.
Oh, and because of union rules, I have to say Ben Bradley, board member, was Lucy Wyman. Carl Bernstein, speaking of words, columnist Michael Ferber, professor emeritus of English at UNH, who, by the way, says Ben Bradley was his landlord when he lived in Washington. You knew the guy. And as Bob Woodward, Radio Free New Hampshire columnist Michael Davidow, an attorney in Nashua and the author of several books. And as Richard Nixon, our intrepid Paula Tracy. Okay. Who is next? All right. You know, I'm a list kind of a girl, so I got to mark things off here. Sorry. Okay. So, what a joy it is to be here celebrating 10 incredible years of InDepthNH.org. Tonight, we not only honor the power of independent journalism, but we also get to welcome someone who embodies the very spirit of truth-telling and community, Steve Taylor. Not quite yet, Steve. Hang on. I got to tell him all about you. If you know Steve, you know he's a man of many talents. He's been a journalist, a farmer, a historian, and a public servant. As the longtime commissioner of agriculture, he worked to keep New Hampshire's farming traditions alive and thriving. As managing editor of the Valley News, he understood how vital strong local journalism is to the health of a community. And on his family's farm, which I have visited, he has lived the values of hard work, honesty, and stewardship every day. But beyond the titles and achievements, Steve is one of those rare people who truly understands the fabric of New Hampshire, our land, our people, our history, and our stories. He has always stood for independence, fairness, and shining a light where it's needed the most. Some of the stories Steve has told include one-room schools, the romance and the reality of what they were. Another is late in arriving, how electricity changed the North Country, rural New Hampshire, and New Hampshire's love-hate relationship with agricultural fairs, a season that has just ended, right? That's over. Anybody caught in traffic? Never mind. All right, so tonight as we celebrate 10 years of fearless reporting, it feels especially fitting to welcome a man who has dedicated his life to the same values. Please join me in giving a big, warm round of applause to our friend, our neighbor, and one of New Hampshire's treasures, Steve Taylor.
Oh, I got.
Wow. Yeah. Did that sound like a guy who can't hold a job? Anyway, great to be here, be amid all these wonderful friends, and to celebrate what has been accomplished. And I want you to know that I've been in the business for over 60 years. I started out as the sports stringer for Hanover High School, and in those days, you did double duty. You played football, then you wrote up the game. At UNH, I edited the student newspaper, served in the Army. When I got out, I had no marketable skills, so I became a newspaper reporter. And I worked at the Portsmouth Herald. I began on April 9th, 1963. And I came in and they showed me where the locker was to hang my coat, how the phone system worked, where the restrooms were, and all that. On the second day, news broke that the nuclear submarine Thresher had sunk at sea. It was a Portsmouth boat, and it had 60 servicemen on it and 60 civilian engineers. And this was a nuclear submarine, and this was a big deal. And the Herald newsroom was pandemonium. The place was going nuts. Everybody wanted to know what we had for an angle. The old managing editor was a guy named Ray Brighton. He was a sinister managing editor. If you found a typo in your copy, he just threw it back at you, and you had 30 seconds to find it and fix it. Damn it. And he always had a cigarette clenched in his teeth. He said, "Here, kid, here's a list of the men on that ship. Go out and see if you can find some of the families and talk to them." I did. I went out. Some of them talked to me through the screen door. Came back, wrote a story, put it in the box. Sat back, went to lunch, came back, paper came out. I had made the offside lead. The headline said, "Old Town by the Sea Knows the Toll," by Steve Taylor, Herald staff writer. Holy smoke, can you believe? Second day, front page, offside leads, got your byline. Well, that leapfrogged my career about 9 months. They put me right on general assignment. I had a great time working in Portsmouth, 3 years. Got summoned back to Lebanon to be the managing editor of the Valley News, which at that time was just getting off the ground, really. And it was with it through some wonderful times. I had some great experiences. And after 8 years, it was time to do something different. Got into the pharma business pretty deep. Also did a lot of freelance writing, magazines, and some newspaper stuff. Did that for a while. Well, then I became Commissioner of Agriculture. Oh, boy. I also became a newspaper publisher and because of the job. The New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, since 1919, has published a weekly market bulletin. And so here I was, got myself my own little newspaper, and I wrote a column, 700 words, every single week for 25 years before I retired. Great fun. Anyway, so since then I've been doing quite a lot of freelance writing and working on the farm, helping my boys, doing things like that. Life has been good, but I have seen the peak, the best years of journalism in New Hampshire, when we had successful, thriving daily papers, good, strong weeklies. We had radio stations that had 2 or 3 news people on staff. I saw all that. And in the last 25, 30 years, I've watched that collapse. And if you want to grieve like me, you just watch that horrible demise, really. This is quite the demise, but damn close to it. So here we are. I'm not yelling loud enough? Okay. All right. Good. Nice job. Give him a hand. Anyway, I never thought in New Hampshire we would have news deserts, places that don't have a newspaper. Right in my county, Sullivan County, poor little Sullivan County, we don't have a newspaper anymore. There's nobody watching the corruption and troubles in Claremont. There's nobody publishing the obituaries. Nobody's covering the football games. All that has gone. I mean, you've taken away really the lifeblood, the oxygen of that community. It's gone. And this is happening elsewhere around the state. Even if they have some kind of a paper, maybe it's only coming out, it was a daily, now it's coming out 3 days a week. Radio stations, they laugh at you. They've never had a newsman in 10 years. They're just taking a feed off the satellite. And that's what they're giving you. I mean, it really angers me. Well, why did this happen? Perfectly obvious. When national chains took over the commerce in this state, it just killed newspapers, killing radio stations, same way. Home Depot and Walmart, Panera Bread, they don't advertise in a local paper, but they put the backbone of the advertising base of local papers out of business. Lumber yards, local banks, locally owned restaurants, all of these people, lumber yard, on and on. And that's what's really just destroyed our news organizations in our state, and it's happening all over the country. And to me, it's a horrible thing. But anyway, about at the bottom of my despair, along comes this woman, Nancy West. She calls me up and says, I want to meet with you. All right, what's this all about? So we met up in a restaurant in New London, and she put the arm on me to be on her board of directors. Oh my God, what can I do? Well, I'll tell you, I haven't had to do much but stand back and applaud what she has done. It's just fantastic. So, I just heard her say, got 17,000 subscribers. I mean, that is more than just every newspaper in New Hampshire. I've been reading the publishers' statements. They have to publish in October telling what their subscriptions, the subscriber list contain, and paid subscribers. It's shocking to see what has happened to these little newspapers all over the state. Down, down, down they've gone. And here's Nancy West going up, up, up. So I just can't say enough how exciting and how wonderful it is to see what's been accomplished, and God bless her. Don't give up. Okay.
Don't be shy to move the microphone. Okay. Oh, and I will need those turned on. I don't think they're turned on. Thank you. Okay. Again, I have duct tape here. It is holding up my speech. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. George Bald is a leader whose dedication and service have shaped communities across New Hampshire. He has spent a lifetime working to strengthen New Hampshire by bringing a clear vision with a commitment to people first. He served as mayor of Somersworth, where he built a reputation for listening closely to his community and leading with integrity. In fact, he was the youngest mayor in the city's history. From there, he went on to guide the Pease Development Authority, playing a central role in transforming Pease from a closed military base into a thriving center of business and opportunity that continues to benefit the entire region. George's leadership helped ensure that our economy would grow while preserving the character and the values that make us so unique. At the state level, George served as Commissioner of Resources and Economic Development. He worked to attract new business to our state. He led the reopening of the mills in Gorham and Berlin, known as the city that trees built. This preserved hundreds of jobs in that region. He's been awarded UNH's Granite State Award. He serves on the board of the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, and InDepth New Hampshire's board, and he was a U.S. Navy veteran. But beyond his titles and achievements, George is known for something even more important, his genuine character. He has always been approachable. He's been fair and deeply committed to the idea that public service is about people. Whether at the local, regional, or state level, he has led with respect and humility and a true sense of responsibility to the public good. And I have seen this great character firsthand serving on the board of directors for InDepthNH with him. Tonight we celebrate 10 years of InDepthNH.org. It is especially fitting to honor someone who has spent his life dedicated to the same principles and organization this organization stands for: transparency, accountability, and service to the community. Please join me in welcoming a true public servant, a trusted leader, George Bald. Yeah.
I don't like going after him. He is. I served in state government with Steve Taylor, and he was a magnificent commissioner. And you, as citizens of the state, you just don't know all the good things he did for agriculture that helped preserve a lot of things. And he's just a real good guy. Thanks. I wanted to start with a joke, so I went on AI. And it was all not very good. And so I thought about a situation that happened to me many years ago. I was going to speak to the Tri-Areas Chamber of Commerce annual dinner. So Dover, Somersworth, and Rochester. Annual dinner, big deal. I'm shaving, and my son comes in and says, "What are you doing, Dad?" I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to. I'm speaking this morning. I'm the main speaker. It's me. I'm the guy that's going to speak and be a lot of attention." I said, "Do you have any suggestions?" He said, "Yeah, Dad. Don't try to tell a joke because you're not that funny." So I'm not going to try to tell a joke. But I just want to take off after some of the things that Steve said and remind you of some of the issues we're dealing with. More than 1,000 newspapers have closed in the United States in the past decade, and the pace is actually increasing. Since 2005, the U.S. has lost 1/3 of its newspapers, and in the past 12 months, 131 closures have occurred. Steve mentioned news deserts. The number of counties without newspapers is growing dramatically. And as he indicated, there's no news at all. It's increasing political polarization in our country and certainly in our state. It reduces civic engagement, and that's a tough thing for our communities to have to go through. When Steve mentioned Claremont, I believe that 25 years ago, that the issues that are going on with their deficit with the schools would not have just surprised everybody, but there would have been stories leading up to this is coming, this is happening, and so it hurts communities again. And there's something about, I got my start, and I'm forever grateful to the citizens of Somersworth for electing me at a young age. I was 27. It was a strong mayor, form of government, and so I learned a lot. And the community needs to have the ability of knowing what's going on, whether it's school board or little league games. It gave people a sense of community. It's also where they found out their information. And again, Steve said it. I feel terrible when I run into somebody and they tell me that their spouse passed away 2 years ago. And I just don't have that. When I used to see it every day, I mean, especially when I was mayor, there were just a lot of people that I wanted to know. I wanted to support the family. And without that, it just doesn't happen. And it gives you less of a community. And the other piece that concerns me is that without good reporting, that the spread of misinformation happens more and more. And again, it's harmful to communities. I also want to tell you that I served as mayor. I went to work for the city of Rochester, and in that time period, I worked there 10 years, and I served as city manager for 18 months on an interim basis. Then I went to Pease, and I went to the state, and back to Pease, went back to the state. I've been at a lot of levels of government, and I can tell you, without good reporters watching every level of government, bad things happen. Now, I'm not going to be specific. Half the room is reporters, so I'm not crazy. But it just is a terrible thing. There's a lot of things that happen that are in communities that are, it's not meant to, but it's easy if you don't have to tell people what you're doing. I can tell you so many instances where a city council member or a school board member would say, well, we didn't want that to get out because we knew people would be upset. But it doesn't promote good government. And there are other people that do it for nefarious reasons. And I am convinced that more and more bad things will happen. And we may find out, but we may not. And we need to know what's going on. And it is a terrible for our country, our state, and our communities not to have good reporters. And that's why I was delighted when Nancy asked me to serve on the board of directors, because having spent the time I did in government, I can tell you that there were, Peter Laughlin is here. Peter was on the board of Pease. I could name a reporter that he would know very well. I would call him names that I hadn't used since I was in the Navy. But in spite of having that, he was right sometimes. He was right in questioning the things that we were doing. And again, it is just too easy if you don't have good journalism to make bad decisions and not worry about the consequences. I also think if you want to be helpful, that you can donate to us, you can donate to New Hampshire Public Radio, you can donate to other publications. Nancy is fond of saying, I wish there were 40 organizations providing the news, because the more competitive we are, the better and the sharper we are at our game. So if you want to support us, I'm glad, and I would encourage that. But I want you to think about supporting others as well. It's not that we don't want others to succeed. If you look in Roget's thesaurus and look under tenacity, Nancy West's picture is right there. I'm going to be honest. Like the second year, I said to myself, I don't want to say anything to this woman, but she's not going to make it. I'm concerned she's just not going to make it. But the dogged determination she has to have really quality journalism. Now, she's not, at least at this point, she's not going to be covering school board meetings in Colebrook or, city council meetings in Somersworth, but she does want to make sure that she is covering in depth certain stories and really digging in. And I can tell you the state will be better off for those efforts. She's assembled an incredible team of people who I suspect they said to her, you don't even have to pay us much. And she took them up on it. But they are really top-notch people, and they're just doing their very best. So I truly enjoy being on the board. The other board members are just top-notch people, and I just got to tell you, Nancy, you're doing a magnificent job. And my congratulations on 10 years. Thank you.